the play-by-play voice of my childhood team, the San Francisco 49ers, and a longtime friend of ours, the one, the only Greg Papa. Greg, good morning. It's Dave. It's Kyle. It's Jay. How are you?
What's up, guys? Starting to crank. They're reporting today for physicals, conditioning, and then go to bed tonight and wake up tomorrow morning, and they have their first training camp practice of 2019. So it's exciting, and I'm really excited.
You know,
to get back to work this season.
This isn't the first time we've spoken since you moved over to the 49ers, but I am curious now that we're on the day of training camp. I thought about you a little bit over the summer because you are, and I'm not just kissing up because you're on the air with me. You know this. You're an encyclopedia of football knowledge, and when we talk about the Raiders, you'll recall like plays from 1981 in the third quarter type of stuff. But with the 49ers, did you find that this is kind of a new thing for you where you needed to delve into a lot of Niner habits, history, philosophies, or because of your watching of the NFL and also obviously you have a radio show in the Bay Area, you cover the team, was this easier than, say, maybe if you were the new Jets play-by-play guy?
You want me to go back to Frankie Albert or Y.A. Tittle? Or,
no, I trust you.
Red Hickey brought the shotgun into the NFL in 1960 with Billy Kilmer. No, I was not born in the Bay Area. Right. I was born in Buffalo, New York.
Yep.
So my Raider knowledge, obviously, I watched the Raiders like so many growing up on the East Coast. We go to the Bills game in the 1 o'clock East Coast window, come home, and it seemed like every single Sunday the Raiders were playing the Chiefs in that 4 o'clock window. But I watched a lot of Raider games, but I studied a lot, and I watched a lot of 49er games. I think my knowledge of the 49ers, I think, is on a par with my knowledge of the Raiders.
Wow.
I went back. The 49ers have been around longer. You have to go back to the All-American Conference in 1946, and what Coach Shaw was doing. And I think, honestly, the thing that has set this franchise apart has been offensive innovation going back to Coach Shaw in the All-American Conference. And obviously what Paul Brown was doing there is still being done by a lot of teams as far as preparation goes. But Red Hickey and the shotgun, and obviously Bill Walsh and everything they did, and always having great quarterback play, from Frankie Albert to Y.A. Tittle to Earl Morrall was a 49er draft pick, and we mentioned Billy Kilmer and John Brody, and then all the way to Joe Montana, and it goes on and on and on. So I did read 2 or 3 49er books on the history of the team this offseason. I reread Coach Walsh's book that he wrote with his son. So I just kind of, refreshed my mind on some specifics, but I know as much about the history of the 49ers as I do the Raiders, and I just, watching the league. I mean, I was born in 1962, Dave, so I watched the league in the late 60s, obviously, but where I really got heavily into it was the merger when they started playing together in 1970, and the 49ers were a dominant NFC team in the early 70s. We all know about the 3 straight trips to the playoffs and winning the West, and those epic matchups with the Cowboys and the heartbreak in 72. And no, so I don't think you'll be noticing that my history as far as the 49ers is any less than the Raiders. It wasn't like I watched a lot of those Raider games myself. I did, and I rewatched a lot of them with YouTube. You can go back and watch the 1970 NFC Championship game at Kezar between John Brody and the 49ers and the Cowboys right now, which I've done, and I've watched every one of their Super Bowls. So, no, I will be as well-versed on the 49ers history as I was the Raiders.
So with you, and that surprises me none, and for you being a veteran of this game and knowing exactly what you're doing, is this, I don't want to say business as usual, Greg, but is it any different this year other than the team colors, or is it same job, different team type of thing? I'm just curious as to if a guy like Greg Papa still gets butterflies, or when does it change?
No, I'm going to get butterflies. There's no question. The first game, what's going to be probably, I think, the most pleasant adjustment I'm going to make is the 3 of the 4 preseason games. I'm going to work with Tim Ryan, who I consider to be as good as any football analyst out there. And he taught me so much football working with Pat Kerwin on NFL radio. He's just premier. And he's a good guy, too, so we're going to have a lot of fun. But 3 of the 4 games we're going to do in the preseason, I'm going to do television only, which I haven't done. I'll have to go back. I did some college games, but I can't recall. I think it was a L.A. Rams game when I did a couple of preseason games for them, and Coach Robinson was there when they were playing still in Anaheim.
Wow.
In the 90s, I think, or maybe even the 80s. I'm not even sure. But it's going to be, I'm going to have fun doing the 49ers preseason telecast. We do have one in Denver that Monday Night Football's doing on the ESPN, so we'll do that radio only. But that's going to be, I think, not an adjustment, but just it's just different calling a game on television than radio. Radio, you really have to attack the game. And I think in a large respect, I'll be a better television announcer than I am football announcer because I can see things differently than, really having to describe every single motion and movement. But so anyway, it's football. It's going to be a little strange, I think, even going down tomorrow and really immersing myself for the first time as the voice of the 49ers at training camp. But at the end of it, it's football. And I've changed teams before. I've changed teams in the NBA. I've changed teams in Major League Baseball. And this is the first time I'm going to change teams in the NFL. But it's just part of what we do as a play-by-play broadcaster. It'll be a little different, I guess, at times. But for me, I think, Dave, that'll dissipate quickly. What it'll be a little more of an adjustment for is the audience. As I told you back in January when this was announced, I'm not going to change anything I do, really. So what comes out of my mouth will be largely the same. It's just going to be what goes into your ears. It depends on what set of ear canal we're talking about.
Well, and listen, I get killed if I didn't ask. I know you get asked this all the time. You get asked on your radio show. You get asked on the street. Even if you haven't, and if you have, forgive me, even if you haven't released it publicly, have you made a decision in your brain? Do you know what your touchdown call will be for the Niners?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's yes. I got you. I respect it.
Yes.
I figured.
The only question I have, and it'll be similar to what I did with the Raiders as far as why I'm doing it. So, do I do it on TV is the question I have. Do I do it on those TV preseason broadcasts? And my inclination is not to do it on those because if I was doing, you don't hear Ian Eagle going crazy on a touchdown call on television because you can see it. Radio creates a different emotion in people. So I probably will not use it in the preseason on the television broadcast, or I may use more of a Cliff Notes version of it. I'm not sure. The question would be, will I use it in Denver when we do the game on radio, the second week of preseason, when we're doing radio only and the game's on Monday Night Football? And that's something I'm going to have to think out. It'll probably be something that'll be a spur of the moment, just on the fly. How do I feel at that moment, and rather than think it out? But I may think that out a little bit for that game. So, what's your advice? Do I save it for Tampa, September the 8th, the whole full-blown call, or do I break it out on TV or break it out on radio only? What do you think?
I don't think there's any question. I think your instincts are correct. I listen, you don't show your hand in the preseason. You don't run your best plays in the preseason. You're going to listen, you're going to be a pro and you're going to call a preseason game like you would any other, but this is something people are clamoring for. There's a lot of clamor going on. So I say you get situated, you get comfortable, and then come that first game, that's when you bust it out.
All right, in Tampa, September the 8th.
Yes, in Tampa.
But then again, with the pre.
Hold on. I was practicing. Sorry.
That'd be funny. Greg goes on. You just reverse it.
Does it now?
49ers touchdown. That's it.
Why didn't I just try it out for you guys?
Go ahead, Kyle.
I think that to the opposite of Dave's point here, I think, though, that there's so much anticipation for the return of 49ers football when you've got Jimmy Garoppolo coming back and Jerick McKinnon's coming back, and there's just kind of a new, fresh feel about the team going into 2019. A lot of people are going to be watching that first preseason game, and like Dave said, there's a lot of clamor for that touchdown 49ers call.
I think he's got it.
I think that hearing it during the preseason would be a pretty big deal.
Nah.
Well, here's the question, though. Do you really think Jimmy Garoppolo's going to play in that first preseason game?
No, definitely not. Okay, you know what? That's fair.
I'm almost certain Jerick McKinnon's not going to play.
You know what?
Garoppolo tore his September the 23rd, and the Jet tore his September the 1st, but he's a running back, so I'm venturing to guess neither one of those guys play. Maybe we'll see him. You know what's ironic is if if you wanted to play, and it doesn't really matter if it's week 1, 2, 3, or 4 for Jimmy. It's just when the knee feels well.
Sure.
And maybe he wants to go out there and try out this new titanium brace he's got. I don't know. But the one that usually you play the most is week 3. And you know where that game is this year. It's at Arrowhead Stadium, the very place where he tore the ACL. So we'll see how it plays out. But I, like Papa, I think Garoppolo is going to save his good stuff for Tampa. And September the 8th, I'm thinking.
That's Niners play-by-play voice. Greg Papa is joining us. Just rolls off the tongue there. And last thing, and then we're going to get to football. I do think it should be noted, and again, you've heard this, and I'm sure you've talked about it. You know, we don't need to get into what happened with the Raiders. That's been well covered. But the fact, Greg, that you are so beloved by so many in the Bay Area, so many Raider fans, and for one reason or the other, you guys parted ways. I don't know how rare it is, but I imagine it is incredibly rare for somebody like yourself. They're moving next year, and you now have the opportunity, instead of either not doing football or doing college football or moving to another market, which I know I don't think you wanted to do. How cool is it to stay in the NFL and your commute just moves a few miles to the south?
Well, I've done it. I did it in baseball when I lost the A's job. I got a call from Larry Baer about 5 minutes later, and it happened the same way with the 49ers. They reached out to me almost immediately. So it's part of the reason I live here.
Yeah.
The Bay Area is the best place in the country to live and one of the best places in the world. And the fact that we have 2 baseball teams and 2 football teams, and in Northern California we have 2 basketball teams. And the hockey team. So there's just so much going on here. You know, I've lost jobs with the Warriors, the A's, and the Raiders, and all either directly or indirectly because of Al Davis. He used to,
right.
He used to. When I lost the first 2 jobs, he totally took blame for it. He said, "I'm sorry, it's my fault." And this one, even though he's no longer with us, it's still his fault. So he cost me all 3, but that's all right. But it's just the specialness of the Bay Area. You know, I have 5 kids, Dave, and the hardest thing is once they get into kindergarten, you really don't want to be moving them all over the world like coaches and players have to do. And some degree broadcasters get swept into that for the very reasons we've stated, is that I haven't had to do that. I've been able to stay in the Bay Area, which I was here literally 2 weeks when I moved here in August of '86. And I'm like, I am wide-eyed. This kid from Buffalo has just landed into Shangri-La. I'm like, where am I? I said, I got to figure out a way to stay here the rest of my life. And even though we've had some obstacles and things to overcome along the way, we essentially have been able to stay here all of our lives.
Well, let's not forget, too, you got to pay those college tuitions.
Yeah, and even after they graduate college, what I didn't realize is they still stay on the payroll.
Oh, come on.
Which is
I got an 11 and 10-year-old.
I'm too nice.
I don't want to hear that. I got 2, not 5, but we're going.
10 years. 10 years, you're not. You're still going to be doing. You're going to be doing this morning show to your a cranky old man.
Greg Papa with us. Greg, football, going into training camp, is it too simple to say the alpha, the omega, and everything centers around Jimmy Garoppolo and that knee, or is there anything else that's popping up that you say that this is what you got to keep an eye on through camp?
Well, yeah, I mean, Jimmy needs to stay healthy. I mean, it's a savage, vicious sport, and he's gotten hurt. He played 2 games in New England when Brady got the Deflategate suspension. He was playing great. He beat him, let him do a win on the road in Arizona on a Sunday night. He was playing lights-out football against Miami. And then he made a bad decision to hold the ball a little bit too long, and Kiko Alonso, the Dolphin linebacker, lit him up and buried him on his shoulder. And, he was supposed to start 4 games while Brady was out, and he only got through 1.5 of them. And then likewise, last year, he made a poor choice. The play was to go out of bounds. There's no doubt. It doesn't matter if it's 4th and goal from the 9 or 4th and goal from the 10. Just go out of bounds. And he decided to plant that foot, go back in the field to play, and it gave out. And so I think he's going to be a smarter quarterback. There's no guarantee he's going to stay healthy, but I think he really has to study a lot of the greats and just how players with less mobility and athleticism have been able to stay healthy. And a lot of it's just luck, there's no doubt, but a lot of it is choice. So he at this point in his career, he's being paid, obviously, like a top-level starter, and he needs to be on the field for his football team. I think they have proven that in Mullins and Beathard, they have capable backups that can run it for a short period of time, but you don't want them having to take the ball for 10, 12 weeks. That's not the way it's set up. So Jimmy is the key, but there are other areas of the football team. I think injury, Dave, is I could go down the entire roster, and a lot of the players that I think are going to be your marquee players, starting with Jerick McKinnon, who is different than Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida, and even Raheem Mostert. And he is a special running back, someone you can really game plan for. Christian McCaffrey, the young guy from Stanford, has become that in Carolina. And McCaffrey's a really good in-between-the-tackle runner. I'm not sure what McKinnon has there. I think he's similar there, but he's really special as a route runner. But he tore his ACL on September the 1st on Labor Day Saturday when you were cutting the roster. That's a huge injury. Over on the defensive side, there's just one guy after the other. I think Quan Alexander coming back from injury. Over to the offensive side, Jordan Matthews. I'm not sure people in the Bay Area know how good of a player he is. He was a really good player in Philadelphia, just very economical in his movement as a route runner, but big body, was able to just make tough contested catches. You got a lot of players that have done it. Jason Verrett on the defensive side, we saw him with the Chargers. I saw him intercept Derek Carr at the end of a game to win a game. A great ball skills, tough guy. So it's injury related, but it's not just the quarterback. Several guys on this team, if they can play 12 or 14 games, you got to assume they're going to miss a couple because football is just vicious and violent. But if they can give you 3/4 or more of the season, then I think this team can win. And the line I've been using, maybe because it just numerically makes sense and it's easy to say, but if number 10 can make all 16 starts, I think this team can win 10. Even though they got a tough schedule. They got to play the NFC South this year and the AFC North this year, which is tough. But I think they can do it, and I think the key thing is going to be getting off to a good start. I think they got 2 very winnable games on the road in Tampa and Cincinnati. Even though they didn't win a single road game last year, I would not be shocked if they got off to a 2-0 start.
That is the voice of the San Francisco 49ers, Greg Papa. Training camp opens up today. Greg's an old friend of ours who, I don't want to pull the curtain back too much, but we have our lawyers and his representation are in a room, I believe, right now trying to negotiate a deal, and we're hoping to bring Greg Papa back each and every week as we have in the past during this season.
It's actually my kids' lawyers that do these deals. It's just the college fund, Papa. Right. That's all. Really, I don't ever get my hands on the money myself, Dave. I just reroute it.
Right.
So,
no gift cards.
I'm not going to see it, but no. I do this for free. Come on, it's coming on you. So when are we going to do it? What day of the week you want to do it?
Hey, the day of the week I want to do it, Greg, is whatever day of the week you're the one with the football job, the radio show, the 5 kids. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Bright and early Monday morning.
Right, the Warriors.
And the Giants. I'll be here right off that first trip. I'll be with you guys at 6 a.m. on Monday after we beat Tampa.
have a great weekend. Congratulations, and always great talking to you, Greg. All right, take care. That's Greg Papa.
The Drive.